I'm also from US. I live in California, Silicon Valley, California. So I've been here in and out more than 30, close to 30 years. And so, so I will be talking about my journey, but I have been part of two successful Silicon Valley startups, and with the value of each one of them, it's about $500 million or more. So that's how I got into this, and I have been doing that. So I will talk about it. Let me pull my simple presentation I have. And I'm hoped people will have questions at the end, or we'll have not question, mean more of a discussion of journey and everything. And so one other part of it is I have been writing to share my story, as well as mentor and guide people through this process over last 3-4 years. I've written close to 100 articles. There are YouTube channel. I have more than 35 videos in a different concept. It's called Accidental Entrepreneur by Ruban. I will have that link at the end for anyone want to subscribe to it, and you will get you can get a email subscription also. So thank you for the opportunity for the Care for Education and having me. And I got to know them about 3 or 4 years ago when I was the president of the local Sri Lankan Tamil Association, where we invited, and they had came and presented their project. It was pretty successful. So thank you very much, and thank you for opportunity for me to share my story. So my story, because the important part of it is everything, I look for the history as well as the background, because that brings in a lot of spice to the life, and to validity to what you are talking about. So since this is again, we are trying to reach out to a lot of Sri Lankan up and coming entrepreneurs, as well as worldwide. It is good for me to go back and discuss a little bit about my background. So I was born in northern Sri Lanka, in a Jaffna area, actually a small town called Ploli, Point Pitru area. And I lived there until my high school. I went through A levels there. So I was born in 70s, and then in 80s, 83, there was sequence of events which which shaped my life, I would say. When I was 12 years old, I lost my father to heart attack. It's before the riots, Sri Lankan riots, but I lost my father when I was 12 years old. And we have a big family, 6 brothers and sisters and mother, and we had a local business. My father was a businessman, as well as Vallipuram temple. He was the Dharmahata, so who was the head of that organization. He was very volunteering and community builder. So suddenly we lost him. I mean, that really had big impact on me. And from then, if you look at 83, and there was a big riot in Sri Lanka. And then 84, I was going to Hardley College for my high school, and Hardley College their library got burned down. It got shut down. We had to move back to my elementary school called Puttalai to go back and study, continue the studies under the trees, under the huts, wherever you can find. So we went through that from in 1980s, through this situation. Sometimes I compare that to COVID shutdown. We went through that, that kind of life then, and we still continue to study this. Our foundation wall studies in Jaffna, so we continue to do that. And then 87, I was nearly went into Pusa. Actually, I was arrested. As a young man. I was a little taller for my size. I was 16 maybe at that time, and they took all of us and took to the camp, army camp in Hardley College, and they were ready to ship us to Pusa. That's the detention camp. Luckily, our principal was there, and he was able to identify a few of us as the students who regularly come to school and released. So then we went through the Indian Army issues and all that. I left in '89 and went to Africa for a year, where my brother was an accountant. So he took me, thought, study, to continue my studies. I went there and I finished my A levels there, and then applied to US, and came to US in 1990s, and went through undergrad and grad school at Stanford University, which is very prestigious in Silicon Valley. So I went through that. And then after that, I went to, as every immigrant, we tried to find a green card. So we went to work, I went work for a company. And during that time, I learned a lot of these things, which I write about, I talk about. And, 1998, 99, I had an opportunity to join a startup company. I did not. That went public and all that. That's the time I learned about entrepreneurship and starting companies. And we went and started a company called VXTEL, which is a voice over IP. Voice over IP, like we are looking at Zoom, as well as a lot of communication which is coming through internet and all that. It was the infancy of that, Web 1.0. So we started a company who could do, take this call, send it through the internet, lines, internet protocols. And that company, we built a lot of intellectual property. So that one got purchased by Intel Corporation, which is the number one CPU company in the world, computer chips, and for about $600 million. And that was a success story. But again, we escape. Again, this is the opportunity also important. We had to think about 2001, there was a dot-com bubble. 3 months prior to that, our company got acquired. And it was a very successful acquisition. And if he had stayed in the 6 months, I don't know what how the history will be written. Then I was at Intel for some time. Then I went and joined the same one of the same founders from VXTEL, and started another company called Virden, which is for the Web 2.0, which is they are, a lot of people have started using internet, and they started doing transaction, they started doing many things. So we built storage devices for them, and that went through again challenges in 2008 with the financial meltdown, and we still survived, and they came through that, and that company got acquired by Western Digital for about $700 million in 2013. Since then, I've been still part of that company and doing some other, advising work. On the other hand, I've been writing about my story to encourage and give some, background to it, how I made choices, how I made decisions, how I made, others better. By doing that, I became better person on able to be successful in entrepreneurship. So that's a story I will be talking about today, and hope you guys will join. So before I talk about the what is the thing you had to do in the young age to become a successful entrepreneur, I always look backwards. So if I look at the a company which I'm building, I look at it, who's the end customer, who's the end, what is the end product, what is the end success criteria. Then you go backward and build the right pieces for that. The same thing here. My presentation is going to talk about at the younger age what you had to do. But to do that, you need to know what is your end goal is. So to become a successful entrepreneur, there are many metrics people use. I use this, 4 of these. It's called P4s, 4 Ps. So the P1 is people. You can talk about ideas, you can talk about what is the market, you can talk about all the, what they needed, but you need to have the right set of people, how you build a relationship, how you network, how do you build alliances with people to support you. That is the most important part to me, because if you don't have the right people, you can't build a complex, large project. So that is the first and foremost part of it. The second one is, as important, is to have a good product. And let's not just go with ideas. I will talk later about it. People have a lot of ideas, and not all the ideas come out to be fruition, because the product mean you need to make money, and for that you need to identify the real market issue, as well as you need to understand the product. The third one is the process. Process is, how do you go and solve this problem? How do you find a unique way of approaching it? How do you find a simpler way? Actually, people think about, come with a complex equation. Oh, I have this physics, I have this engineering background, I do that. Actually, that is okay. But the most important thing is, how can you solve the problem in a simpler, scalable way? The reason is, when you are a successful company, you need to build your product and sell it in millions of dollars or billions of dollars. So if you make it too complicated, there are two aspects of a problem there. One of them is, you won't be able to replicate too much without quality issues, as well as when I talked about the P1, the people. So you have people who are going to come and work for you, and eventually it become hundreds of people, maybe thousands of people. And everyone will have a different knowledge level, a different understanding. So to scale, all of them has to match to your drum beat. So to follow that, you need to make sure the product and the process you are setting up is understandable by the wider audience, not just by you. It has to be by many other people. And the P4 is the partnership, which is the customers, sales partners, the sales channels, and then you have to talk to industry experts and all that. You should be able to go out and build that customer interest and other supporting cast. So these are the four things which I look for it. So as I go through my presentation, I will be pointing to what it is. Okay. So again, people talk about entrepreneurship, and then they started thinking about it after graduation or later in the life and all that. That is okay, but I encourage, because from my background, as I said, my grandfather opened a grocery store in Ploli, and in front of the Mandiha base hospital there. And then my father joined the business, and then he expanded into a farming, supply store, as well as farms. Then he became a postmaster also. So there are many things you look at it. So when you are young, you see all of these and see how, as a young man living through that situation, even though we had the war, we had all of those challenges going on, you need to be able to learn early in your life. And again, it is not about going to a class or sending people to go and take a camp or something like that. But I'm talking about is having, how do you, when you have a kids or grandkids, how do you get them to know that? So one of them is the inquisitive mind. It is very important, that part of it, because when people say, they bring a toy, they bring a pen, they bring different part of it. When I was young, I used to think about it, what are the unique values of it? What are the things? What are the technology behind it? Simply, but not like I'm saying, what are the electronics and all that, but more of understanding what it is being used. And second one is encourage them to think for them. It is important to, for each one of them to have their own opinion. So that is one of the most important aspect of it, because when you go into startup entrepreneurship, you need to have a unique and very interesting way of articulating your value, because everybody will have their own way. They will try to put that on you. So how do you make sure that you have your own and unique way of thinking and articulating? For that, you need to encourage those young people to think about it. The next one is the passion, emotion, and empathy. This the reason I put here, because the next one is the 10 to 20 years old, because you can't, very difficult to grow this one later in the life, because if you have lived a life of selfishness or not caring for others, or don't care about the emotional part of it, and it's about me, it becomes very difficult to change your mindset later in the life. Because I've seen people who are brilliant, very brilliant people who come out and want to do startups and all that. They have difficulty connecting with people. They have difficulty understanding and accepting others' point of view. Putting yourself in others' food. The empathy is the most important, trait I ask everybody to have, because when you have that one, you can put yourself others' food from a business point of view, from a market point of view, or from some difficulty situation. When people are going through difficulties, you put yourself there and feel that one, and then you jointly come up with a solution. And the fourth one is exposure to business and money. Again, this is not, I'm talking about, not talking about able to transact and do big things, but people need to just know the value of everything they get, everything they see. They need to be able to be articulated. So this is one of the area which you can do it at early stage. And by understanding the business, understanding the money part of it, because eventually any entrepreneurship, any business item, it's about making money. The last one is, it is a time for people to collaborate and work with different people with a different background and all that. So that is one of the things which I was lucky enough to do. Was I was a good cricket player and volleyball player. So I used to play even when at that young age with the different people. At the same time, there were community organization like temple association, youth association. So I was able to be part of it, to be able to do joint with others and do that. So that is, these are the thing, in my opinion, is a foundational thing to have some knowledge and all that. And then you might now migrate into the next 10 years of your life. And what are the areas here? In the here, I was, my that the 10 to 20 years old in my 80s, the exposure to innovation and creativity was amazing, because we didn't have electricity for years. We didn't have the great food or other things from outside. We didn't have, but we still we didn't have so much thing. I can go list after list. But on the other hand, we were living very happy life. We had festivals, we have temple tiruvilas, and we had good food. I wouldn't complain about it, what we had. And then we were able to go and watch movies or listen to music. One of the innovation is, and people always talk about, is using dynamo in the bike to run the radios, where you can listen to music, or you can listen to cricket match from India. Those are the things you can do that. We were doing that, and we will go on bikes miles and miles to get something from different people. And like I used to be participate in our tuition center. They used to have to make exams. They didn't have the printing press, so they need to have this the roller thing where you write it by hand, and then it goes and print it. So there are so much of these things it can be done at that level. And then collaborate with diverse team. This is the biggest thing. As I said, well, P1 is the building team people. So when you start working in Sri Lanka, any countries nowadays, it is very diverse. Your customers are going to be diverse, your team members are going to be diverse, or your people are going to be from so many different backgrounds. So you need to, if you learn that early, when you're going through your high school years or early stage in your college, work with different people from different economical background, different mindset. From there could be the commerce people, engineering people, bio people. So you able to know, and as well as business people, local business people, understanding and talk to them and understand, building that, how to build relationship. It's not about the solution part of it, but how are you maturing as a person. The next one is the take leadership and risk taking. This is one of the most important aspect I tell people, because people have a lot of knowledge, a lot of things. And if you are not able to lead mean there are people willing to follow you. And that is the one about taking leadership. And so if you have given an opportunity, for example, I was given an opportunity to be a captain of my cricket and the local cricket team. I was like 15 or 16. I didn't know I would be able to do that. But I was stupid enough or bold enough to say, okay, I'll try my best. And we won in a championship next couple of 2 years under my leadership. So that gives me confidence, as well as I learned during that time, even though outside it looked like a very successful, internally there were a lot of battle I had to do, choose the right people. And when you go through cricket, you had to find the best batsman, best bowler and all that. You do that. So by learning that, when I went to the company later, I was able to understand and put the right people in the right place. Same thing about the risk taking, because some of the time you take something you don't normally would do. That is the risk you take, and because you need some change status quo, and then go through that and make it different. In these years, under 20 is the best time to learn about the foundational technology. I still go back to my Suryanatha master. He's my physics teacher. I go after Padmanatha master. He was, like an early engineering kind of a teacher. And there are a few of those people who I studied under at Hartley College and different places. They taught some of the foundational technology of how physics work, how chemistry work, how mathematics work. And that is most important to me, because I can still continue to apply whenever there is a problem get tougher. I peel back to the foundation and then build it back. And the same thing applies for the business principle, because I was, family was a business oriented, as well as I was very interested in commerce and all that. I used to do a lot of classes on that. And next one is I just talked about the goals and break down complex tasks. Because this is the time, when you are, we went through A levels, it is exams after 2 years, or, O levels, you study so long. And those are the times you learn about, how to set the goal and break down those, end goal, and break down into smaller pieces. You had to do these different tests, different part. The same thing applies. You learn when you build a big company. It's not that you are one day you're going to build the product or anything. It takes 12 months, 18 months. How do you, make sure you pace yourself and to achieve the end goal at the given time? Because you need to break down and make sure what is need to be done, and you build upon, just like building a house. You have the foundation, you put the floors, and then you put the you put the roof and side part of it, and then you put inside, and then you started building around it. The same thing applied. The next one is the problem solving skill. It is the very underrated part of it. People come with degrees, people come with knowledge. And when I seen the best people to have at entrepreneurs or the founders in the companies or the employees have the best problem solving skill. What that means is not just going an equation wise, but looking at the current situation. What are the available things? What are the political, environmental, and different areas? How do you connect all of them back and make sure you make choices, you solve the problem with what you have and where you need to go? This is a lot of people miss that, saying, okay, to solve this particular problem, I will have to spend $10 million. I had to go to China, or I had to do this and all that. It's true. It's easier to say that, but you may not have $10 million. You may not have able to have access to Chinese manufacturers. So how do you find at the beginning, a local manufacturer, local, with a limited fund, you can build some prototype, and then you build into the product. So this is one of the area which I excelled in my both of my companies, because I was coming from the hardware background. I was running the engineering. A lot of people will come, we hire a new person. He will say, oh, there's a Japanese, company. They will do a better job. When I start talking to them, I found out was so much money, so much time, which we both of those, money and time we didn't have. So we had to solve it creatively. And the resiliency, as I mentioned earlier, like my first startup, when we were going through growth, suddenly we had this 2001 dot-com bubble where the company was going to go down. So we were able to sell our IP and product to Intel and exit at a very high valuation. The second company was a little bit different. We were building in 2006. We started the company. In 2008, there was a financial crisis. So we had a limited amount of money in the bank. And if we had stayed in that current trajectory, we would have failed. So I walked into our boardroom and I said, okay, we will reduce our expenses by doing different things and get to a market quickly and get some revenue and raise some more money later. So how do you approach the resiliency? And actually, from my career point of view, I was an engineer for first 20 years. And during that time, and we were not able to sell the product to our customer. So I changed my job title as a customer support member. And I went to the customer, I sold the product, I gave up my engineering at that time. I never looked back, because now I am a sales guy looking at that, because that was the most important thing, because you can build products and all that, but end of the day, if you don't have customers and if you don't have it. So it's important for people to look at the challenges, look at this. Currently we are going through the COVID. Currently, unfortunately, we are going through all these Sri Lankan economical challenges. It is so bad. I understand, but on the other hand, this may be the best opportunity time for all of you who are listening to me from Sri Lanka to do something which you didn't think you could do, and be creative and do that. And the next one is experiment. When you are hit 20 years old, or the later part of it, I'm just trying to give you some of the important aspect of to become an entrepreneur now, because you had the early knowledge, then you had the foundation was built. Now, how do you go about? For me, that's the reason my writing is about accidental entrepreneur. I didn't think I was going to be an entrepreneur from the beginning, but I was good at some of these things, which led me to do that eventually. So, for example, experiment with ideas. What does that mean? You have. I remember when I was in college, in the early 20s, there were people gave us opportunity to go and write about some new technology which we will come up with. It is interesting. It was in 1991 or 1992. We, as a group of 3 people, wrote about internet. In the sense, what we did was, there was newspaper which was being given to printed and distributed to over every building, every part, every housing places and all that. So there were like thousands of newspapers was being printed. And so our idea was, why don't we transition that one into electronic form? By doing that, it can reduce the pollution, because you cut down less trees, less newspaper, and as well as people want to go do the research, they can go back. It will be online. This is before internet was there. So we put an idea saying the universities had some of these kind of intranet within the campus. So use that. And we had a main server where they will load this newspaper information, and there will be terminals, because we didn't have computers like what we have now at that time. So the terminals will be available in every building where people can go and pull out the article and read and all that. That was interesting, done before that. And the second one is a deeper analysis and commitment. You need to be able to break back to the foundational technology and able to, build back and understanding how the product works and how this, project will be implemented. And you need to make commitment. You can't have every day a new idea and not following through. So that is a most critical item for many entrepreneurs miss, because entrepreneurs think, oh, I have an idea guy, I can do a lot of these things. But you need to make commitment to an idea, an area, and then you go con into that area and go into making sure that you follow through it. Other one is early work experience, which I think is becoming better lately. But I remember when my time, as well as many people who went to universities with my batch or even afterwards in Sri Lanka, they didn't have the work experience. I mean, they had their knowledge and all that, but work experience teaches few things: how to deal with people, and how to, you will have a boss telling you, even though how smart you are or not, they are paying you a salary, they will tell you what to do, and you have to follow that. As well as you understand, how the organization work, how, to build these products, how do you deal with, all the different kind of processes and all that. And next one is customer engagement. It could be at the simplest level, trying to sell an idea, or working in a store and, working with people who will buy your product. Because that's the time it is the judgment, because is someone else willing to pay money to get something from you? Because people will say, that's a great idea, I love it, you should do it. Versus then you turn back and say, if I do it, will you buy it? And they will say, maybe. That's the very key sign for it. So this is where you learn about the customer engagement. And the next one is a good idea versus good business idea. Because a lot of, as I keep mentioning, that ideas are thousands or millions of it available, but following through, building a business around it and making profitable, that is the goal of entrepreneurship. Not just building an idea and throwing it out over the wall and hoping somebody will buy it, versus going through that. And build for the future. So this is another area, like, at this age, you started learning about different technologies and another. For example, currently, cryptocurrency, Web 3.0, metaverse, there are so many new technologies are coming up. It's good to understand what is coming up, because your company, if you start now, it is going to be available in the next 5 or 10 years. So you need to make sure that you build for the future, not for the past. And the attitude, it has to be, you have to believe in yourself, you have to believe in your team, you have to have the belief that what you are building is needed for the market, and you can do that. And so those are the, in my opinion, to build the foundational part. So I threw a few other pointers which I have written about, and is one of the most important thing is the KISS principle. The less is more. Keep it simple, stupid. This is was done by U.S. military in 1960s. They have had a concept. There was so much complex, so much different technologies, different ideas coming in. So one of the most checkpoint they have is to see whether this idea will go to next step. Is it simple enough? Is it scalable? It can be go to that. So next one is, as I said, a scalable solution. Because again, you can build 1, you can build 5, you can build 10, but can you build 1,000? Can you build 100,000? Can you build 1 million? So that is where you have to do the product. Like, for example, for the software companies, people may be trying to do, is that the delivery system, the quality, is that what you build is scalable? Like when you put it in like a Amazon or some kind of AWS kind of servers, what kind of performance, like if suddenly you get 1 million users, would that solution scalable? Next one is, people in Silicon Valley very focused on is MVP, the minimum viable product. When you start a product, just make sure you don't try to do everything before you go and check with the customer. You do the minimum viable product and go and get feedback from the real user and customers and keep iterating on that. That is very important, because if you don't do that, you will have run out of money, you run out of time, and then you find out these three key features, you don't have it. So it's important to put something minimum, get it out there. Other one is working with the customers, or as well as any partners, listening. A lot of people miss that because a lot of people have their own ideas and all that. But end of the day, you have to listen, because when you listen, people will be telling you some nuances of why by tweaking this, I may buy it, or do this one, I have this pain point, I need to solve it. So you need to be able to do that. The diversity. I always look for, my team. I always talk about my first company. We had, I'm from Sri Lanka. We had a few people from India. Then I had a white guy, young guy from New Jersey. And there is a Lebanese American person. Then there is a Taiwanese guy there is a Vietnamese thing. And then some of them are age differences. Some of them are 40, 50 years old. Some of them are 20s. So you have diverse knowledge base and background, as well as diverse experiences. So you have all of these, and then you can say when there are problems, and you ask everybody for opinion. Eventually, you make the decision. But when you have the diverse approach, you will be able to get the best solution. And the next one is the principles versus practicality. There are so much people have, I want to do this way. This is the only way I will do it. But if you go little, change yourself and become practical, and you'll find a customer quickly. I would rather always take the practicality part of it, because the principle is yes for you to be, you can sit in your room and pride yourself saying, I did this, I did that. But when people buy and do everything, and then everyone else will think you did it. So that is the important part I look for. And next one is the consistency. It is, as I said earlier, it takes 18 months to build it. And for example, my writing, I've been doing this for 4 years or 3-4 years, and I write nearly every week, because the consistency is so important to build a brand, build a solution. So you need to make sure that. And again, any companies, any product you put out, you need to have a bigger goal. Not like, I have this product and you can use it. Why they can use it? So currently, you can look at the ESG is becoming very important, environmental, because of the, ozone layer, as well as all the environmental problem, and the social side of it. There are people, still 50% of the people don't have internet. There are other areas, things happening. So how do you make social changes? And governance, you need to be able to make sure you are responsible when, the mining different materials and all that. So you look at all of that. And for example, my first company, as we said, we build a product for more people to connect and all that. That's a great social change. The second part of it is the product which I have about 35 patents on, both of the companies together. So some of the areas we worked on was power reduction. Like, each one of the chip we designed, it reduced the power by 10 times. So that helps you change environmentally, as well as helps you, social changes and all that. So you need to make sure you go through all of these and understand where things come in. And the last one is, if you guys look at my writings, I always go back to Tirukkural as the beginning part. Because the reason to me is actually it is important that Tirukkural was written 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, and it still have meaning. That is absolute importance and all that. The second part of it is I go back to my roots. When I started my education, my father was still around. Before 10 years old, he took me to a local, Pandidar, and asked me to go and learn, Tamil from him. I was like, and I was too young and I didn't realize what I was learning. So this particular person, there were people who used to memorize Tirukkural and go to competition and win trophies and all that. This particular person was not that kind of person. He took our foundational like Tirukkural as well as various old Tamil literature and taught me and few others how to break down each one of these sentences into smaller pieces. When we're looking at that, 7 words in each one of Tirukkural, it can be meant many different ways. So how do you go back to foundation and break it down? And then you build back each words together. And then by doing that, you understand the real meaning behind the Tirukkural. So I learned that one. And it was, as I said, before 10 years old, I learned a little bit. And then later, last 4 or 5 years, I started taking and reading through again. Because of that knowledge which I was parted with about able to understand, break down into smaller pieces and able to go and do that, still I can understand Tamil quite well, even though I've been away from Sri Lanka more than 30 plus years. And because of the foundational knowledge, so that applies to everything. So in that one example is எண்ணி துணிக ஹர்மம் துணிந்தவன் எண்ணுவது என்பது இழுக்கு. What does that mean is, when you are starting a company or starting a big task, consider and then undertake the matter. So you have to prepare yourself and you have to think through it. What is it going to make you to build that? Rather, if you don't do that and then you want to say, I want to build a company and I want to raise the money, or I sell my house and get the money, and then you just jump into the thing, and then you started thinking, my gosh, you are going to be, you only hire say 10 people and you are still paying their salary, but you don't have the idea, you don't have the market and all that. That is a really bad way of starting a business. So that is, I'm going to end with that as everybody. So again, to hear my stories, you can sign up for my weekly articles at the weekend page, as well as I have a YouTube channel. I put it out there, as well as you can follow me at LinkedIn at Ruban Kanapathipillai, as well as I have a LinkedIn page also.